you want to talk about Euphoria?
I never got into it, but
the watching is not the important part here.
Yeah, this is kind of interesting. There's been, I should let you read the article first, but I think this is an interesting topic.
Yep.
Yeah.
This one hits close to home for me because I have strong opinions on stuff like this. So it says, HBO's Euphoria slammed for glamorizing drug use and anonymous sex for teens. The second season of HBO's Euphoria is well and truly underway, and it's sparked a lot of backlash from one concerned organization. The series follows Rue, played by the Emmy Award-winning actor Zendaya, a high school student who is not only trying to navigate...
I just want to point out that word should be actress, but they're going for gender-neutral language.
They've been doing that for a lot of actresses feel that
like
it's rude.
I just feel like it's worth pointing out.
A lot of actresses feel like it's rude to say, like, we shouldn't be differentiated. So, like, in the Oscars one day, it'll be male.
Weird to erase gender from our language.
I know.
Sorry. Yeah. Over to you. Not your fault.
Latinx.
No, none of that.
Dane had a problem with that too. Says that she's not only trying to navigate the complexities of teenage life, but also a pretty serious drug addiction. The first season saw how she was sent to rehab after nearly dying from an overdose, and it only took her 5 days before she's back on it. You see Rue cause heartache in her family, as well as trouble with her friends and other relationships as she continues to spiral out of control. They've done just from these images, they've done a fantastic job with her makeup to make her just look like I've seen so many people like that in my lifetime. Mm-hmm. The second installment, which debuted earlier this month, sees Zendaya's... It's Zendaya, right? I say Zendaya.
Yes, Zendaya.
I say Zendaya, but Zendaya's character in pretty much the same place. The opening episode saw her at a New Year's Eve party where she nearly overdoses on heroin and takes another drug to try and correct it. Likely they're talking about Narcan or naloxone. Mm-hmm. This happens while her classmates are getting drunk and high. Haying pretty illicit sexual encounters. I don't know what that word is. Haing.
Haying.
I'm gonna look it up.
Maybe it's a spell. It could. They might have been trying to say having pretty illicit sexual encounters with one another. One nearly beats the other to death. It's no surprise that DARE, Drug Abuse Resistance Education, isn't happy. The organization is an education program that seeks to prevent use of controlled drugs, membership in gangs, and violent behavior. Speaking to TMZ, they said, rather than further each parent's desire to keep their children safe from the potentially horrific consequences of drug abuse and other high-risk behavior, HBO's television drama Euphoria chooses to misguidingly glorify and erroneously depict high school drug use, addiction, anonymous sex, violence, and other destructive behaviors as common and widespread in today's world. They are common and widespread in today's world. And I would like to point out that DARE is largely considered a failed program, much like Stranger Danger in the 80s. It does not keep kids from using drugs. Augustine Frizzell, who directed the show's pilot episode, hoped that the series sparks a conversation between teenagers and parents, while creator Sam Levinson said that the show should open up a dialogue and bridge the disconnect between parents and teenagers. I hate edutainment. I hate heavily done messaging in movies. It used to be a TV show would have one episode like that a year, like a PSA type episode. For the most part, even though this is a topic that's extremely close to home for me, I would rather that Hollywood doesn't lecture me. And if they're making entertainment for the sake of entertainment, I want you to go ahead and make it. Yeah. It is the parents' job to make sure their kids are not consuming materials, be it drugs or television and movies. It is the parent's job to parent. It is not Hollywood's job to parent.
I would say, okay, first off, that word I think is a typo. I think they meant having.
Yeah.
The thing that bothers me about this, we're hoping that it opens a dialogue. The reality is most teenagers are probably sitting alone in the room on their laptop binge watching this show.
They're not going down to their parents and saying, look at this awesome show. Let's talk about it. We have moved
away from a culture that sits down as a family at 5 o'clock to watch a TV show together. And, and there are instances where some teenagers might be watching it with their parent in the room. It might be something, that a parent uses to have an opening to be like, is this the kind of pressure you're facing at school? I could understand where that's coming from. And I think if that is the way you have these conversations with your teenager, that's awesome. Because I don't think that, personally, I don't think that a culture of deny, pretending that your teenager won't be in a position where they'll have sex as a teen or they might be introduced to drugs, whatever it is. I don't think that that's a realistic, closing your eyes to it isn't a realistic strategy. I just think that the reality is that most teenagers are watching this in bulk, in mass, all at one time, they're not discussing it with anyone, and your brain is registering these things differently than if you were to have it in a open setting with an adult in the room, and you were consuming it as part of a larger dialogue, which they are probably not.
I don't know.
Have you ever had this discussion with your parents?
So I was raised by my grandparents, and they told me, "Oh, you're not allowed to date until you graduate college." And then they changed it. They decreased it. They said, "Okay, you can date when you're 21." And like,
wow,
I was 21 when I graduated college.
Well,
so they did the same. That was nothing for you.
Yeah. So it wasn't like, I talked to Brett about it. Like, so I wasn't sexually active in high school. It would have been like, wouldn't change me either way because I wasn't interested during that time. I was like, it's a funny topic for me. I could talk about it. But other than that, it wouldn't change it. But what my grandparents did, so they'll watch these movies with me when I was a kid, but then they'll tell me, "Oh, close your eyes or go to a different room." And that's what my parents are doing with my younger siblings. So I have siblings who are under the age of 16, and they're watching grown shows like this. For me, it's kind of cool that you want to like watch something with your kids, but I don't think it's age appropriate to watch with somebody who's not in high school. Like, I have a brother who's 8 years old and he's watching this, but they
really?
Wow. And they tell him like, "Oh, close your eyes, don't watch this," or they fast forward quickly.
I was referring, and it's funny because it shows you how different we're talking about. I wasn't even referring to the sex aspect of it. I was referring to the drug aspect. That's the part that hits home for me.
Well, my parents don't care, even though they abuse drugs at a young age, but I don't think they care about that part. They care more about sex. They think sex is more dangerous than drugs.
See, I think my comment relates to both, like the drug use or whatever. Like, I mean, I don't want to critique your parents' miracle, but like, I think if you aren't ready to have conversations like this with your teens, that you are you're making. I mean, I think parenting is really difficult, and I'm not trying to undercut the seriousness of that, but I think that, pretending teenagers aren't being exposed to these things is not going to help. Yeah. But I also do think that, like, I haven't seen the show. The thing that I've seen about the show the most, the big trend has been on Reels or on TikTok of people being like, when you're getting ready for school, but you forgot you go to Euphoria High, and it'll be like it's the audio from like SpongeBob, I think, and it's Squidward saying, "And where is your uniform?" And the person will walk in the frame, they'll hear that line, and they'll walk out, and they'll come back in like what I would associate with like going to the club, hardcore, trying to show off outfits, like just kind of stuff that looks a little bit ridiculous. Yeah. I've also seen a parody of it where it's when you forget you go to Wes Anderson High, which is hilarious. I just think that like the creators of the show claim, it's to foster a conversation. Like,
I don't think so.
You aren't releasing it one episode a week at a set time when a family might say like, "Hello, my son Brett."
I didn't even think about that.
You know what I mean? They're releasing it to Netflix for kids to watch alone.
Well, this one is on HBO Max, so it's a little bit different. Like,
not really. I mean, it's the same thing. It's just a different service.
Well, who's gonna watch? Because like, there's another show that like my parents like were showing my siblings. They were watching it with my siblings. It's called Jeannie and Georgia. I don't know if you watch it.
I've heard of it, but I've never seen it.
So basically, it's about a mom, her daughter, and their son. They moved to different states. They never explain why, but later in the series, you'll find out why. Like, they moved to a different state every time. But what happened was, there's like scenes where they do talk about like underage drinking, and then underage fornication, and then like self-harming. And like Netflix at the end for the episode where she like basically like puts a lighter on her thighs to create scars. At the end of the credits, they said, "If you need help, just talk to somebody." But they don't say like, "Hey, you okay, fam?" Like, let's not show this to kids.
So are you familiar with the concept of like, I think they're called suicide pods?
Yeah.
Like, they're where
it has cyanide in it, right?
No, sorry, that's not a term. I'm using the wrong term. But there's a phenomenon where if a community, especially close-knit communities, like if a teenager commits suicide clusters, thank you, commits suicide, it is likely that there is another suicide, if not more, going to occur in that same community. I think that I can't say, I've never seen the show, I can't say what the effect would be, but I think teenagers today, we know, are extremely high risk of, they use the internet more than anyone else.
Yeah.
They're spending more time on screens than any generation before them, partially because of lockdown and virtual schooling, and partially because, they have less access to regular interaction with people because of coronavirus restrictions. Suicide rates, self-harm rates, the rates of depression are extremely high among teenagers. And I think that hand in hand, that behavior is linked to, lower, having sex at an earlier age, or they're at higher risk of abusing drugs. And I just think that, like, it's an interesting choice to release this show knowing that's the reality. I don't know. I mean, I can't say that they shouldn't have, because I believe in free expression. I believe in the creative process. But, is it enough to say, oh, but it's so parents can talk to their kids about it, if that's not really happening?
I don't believe for 1 second that this show's causing kids to do drugs, but I also don't believe for 1 second that it's increasing any dialogue between parents and their kids at all. I will say that Zendaya did leave a trigger warning, saying that this may affect you. I can't watch things like,
what do you mean?
Before the first episode,
she personally
released one both on her social media saying, like, if you're going to watch this, you need to be aware of what you're getting into. I can't watch things like this because of my years of drug abuse. I can't watch Requiem for a Dream anymore. I can't watch anything with heavy focus on these things, because it's immediately takes me back to where I used to be and puts me in a place that could very well I could lose an entire day of work having to work through seeing something like this. But I also don't want Dare telling people what the hell an artist can or can't make, because Dare has no place in the world telling an artist what they can make art about. Like I said, this is up to the parents to tell their kids what they need to. It's up to parents to know what their kids are watching. I know that's a hard thing to do in today's world, but it's your job. You chose to have children, and you need to be there for them. And the fact of the matter is that these things are the reality we live in now. Drugs are extremely accessible. Drugs are extremely dangerous, but there's nothing that we can do as a society, but nothing that taking away art is going to do to prevent kids from doing it.
Well, I wish in some ways Dare had challenged Euphoria's creators to, like, donate to, I know there are schools that specialize in working with students who are struggling with addiction, like students who may be in a position that some of their characters are. And from what I know, and that's very little, the show is profiting off these images, but it's not necessarily using its platform to increase any specific cause. And again, for me, all of these things need to be tied to specific action. Maybe I'm wrong. Then
do TV shows about cops need to give money to anti-crime funds?
I don't think anyone needs to do anything, but I think it would be worth doing. I think today's day and age tells us that, like, we believe in how we use our money, and we believe in how we direct our influence. If they were really concerned, or if they really believe that their show was part of larger conversations about drug use and sex among teenagers, it wouldn't hurt. They don't have to, but it wouldn't hurt to take a specific, to be sort of the benefactor for a specific cause.
I also have no problem with Hollywood getting taken to task for this, because Hollywood loves to virtue signal and constantly claim that they're making the world a better place with the stuff they're doing, which I disagree with. I don't think that this is making the world any better. I don't think that movies that have strong representation are changing the world. I think that real people in the real world change the world. I hate virtue signaling, but I also hate the idea that they want to turn everything, they want control of these industries just as much.
Yeah. And it also, I mean, I haven't seen the show, but, like, some of it are these realistic expectations of what high school parties or what high schoolers are facing? Maybe in some places, not all high schools. I think that, like, more than anything, we are playing, because they're like, oh, it's about drug use and these hard things, because they're about grittier topics. We forget that in some ways they are glamorized as well, right? And,
it's glamorized because it's art. It's going to. There isn't a way to do this that won't be.
I don't think it's about its art. I think in this case, it's like pretty teenagers up to trouble.
She does not look pretty in these photos.
She always looks pretty. She's a beautiful girl.
But I'm saying that right there, they're showing her at a low point. It's not like they're saying that.
Yeah,
she's
but
happy.
like a really hot person's low point is still not the same as like an average looking person's low point.
But Brett, scroll up, maybe like show her that photo where she's crying. Yeah, I can kind of see what you mean. Like, she's still pretty.
And they're still at these, like, when you are home in lockdown, you have nowhere to go and you're not getting invited anywhere because you don't even know the kids you started high school with 2 years ago. Well, like, any party looks better than no party.
But then a part of the article where it says anonymous sex, since kids have more access to the internet, you can talk to people who are nearby you that might want to do it. So even with the lockdowns, you can still figure out a way.
But it's more dangerous. I mean, you don't know who you're meeting up with online.
Yeah.
This is the parents' job. This is not the job of Hollywood or any other, or it's not Dare's responsibility. It's not Hollywood's responsibility. It is your job as a parent to make sure that your kid feels safe coming to you when they have questions about things that they are dealing with in their everyday life.
But what if they don't, like, just a hypothetical. What if you have a teenager who's binge watching this alone in the room? You can see on your family Netflix account or HBO or whatever that they're watching it, but they never talk to you about it. Are you obligated to ask them, hey, I've been reading about the show. Like, why are you watching it? What would you do in that position, Brett?
As a parent,
would you bring it up first?
That depends on if they have the same account. Are we talking about, do they have their own account?
No, I just gave you a hypothetical. Okay. Like, you share an HBO whatever account with your kid.
I would ask them what they think about the show and listen for what their response is. If what they give you is some half-baked, it was interesting, or I liked it. It doesn't sound like something you watch for fun. It sounds like something you watch to it's not something where you're going to get a one-word answer.
It can be a form of voyeurism too. Like, that sounds a little extreme, but like teenager. My example right now is all teenagers are locked up. I know it's not true everywhere, but like teenagers who are in these space, who are watching these shows, who are staying home and binge watching. They're not going anywhere.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. For me, because I grew up with like family who will let little kids watch like grown up things like this, but then still tell us like to look away or go to a different room. Like, for me, I'm like, I don't know, because I was exposed to like watching adult things at a young age. So for me, it just depends. And how Brett said earlier, you have to teach your own kids. It's not somebody else's job to teach your kids.
Yeah.
I don't want the government getting involved in banning video games because they're violent, because they are of this fantasy that's causing people to be violent. I don't want intervention from Dare. I don't want intervention from the government. I want parents to do their job, and I want entertainers to entertain.
Yeah. It's actually, it reminds me a lot of criticism that Gossip Girl got back in the day, because I don't think they depicted it, but like they implied some characters are going to have a three-way, and generally all of the teenage characters in that show are drinking and having sex and doing whatever. In some ways, this is just a reiteration of things that we've already discussed as a culture and not come to any conclusions about. But I totally agree with you. I mean, I don't want government or Hollywood, aka a corporation, just telling my teenager what to do or how to do it. But I think that in reality, they are saying this is bad. I don't care if they do or don't. Like, they're free to release whatever statement they want. But I think ultimately, if we really want to see change, it comes down to parental involvement.
Have you ever had health class in high school? Like, was it a requirement for you to take?
Yeah, it was a requirement for us. What about you?
So because like I'm just asking because like my school, like they didn't really teach us about sexual safety. They told us abstinence is key. Like, that was the thing, like the message for our sex ed class. Abstinence is key. Don't do it. That's bad. And then for drugs, they kind of glazed it over because like Bakersfield, there is a drug problem there. We're not number one in the nation for the drug problem, but we are number one in the nation. I don't know if it changed recently, but during my time, number one in the nation for chlamydia.
See, heroin was prominent at my school. I mean, in my area at least too. That was definitely something that happened. Like our teachers refer to it like it occurs in our building. You just don't always see it. And I think that it's again unrealistic to tell your teenagers, like the idea that if you don't talk to your teenager about it, or if you try to shield them from media that has it, that they will never encounter it is not realistic. On the other hand, do they need to see it graphically depicted regularly? I'm not sure.
Well, again,
that comes down to you as a parent, like Brett was saying.
It comes down to you as a parent, and like it reminds me of this YouTuber that I watch, Joe Jitsukawa. He talks about like how he grew up with his mom. So his dad left when he was 14, and his mom is like I believe she's a nurse or something in the medical field, and he said, yeah, like we'll watch these adult movies or TV shows, but then like she wouldn't shield me from the scenes. She would just tease me about it, and like I was like more comfortable to her to talk about like my sexual experiences. So it just really depends on the parents how you teach your kids, because again, like your kids are a clean slate. If you explain to them like, oh yeah, that's just sex, or not like how I just said it, like nonchalant like that. But I don't know. Again, it's not the government or entertainment to teach your kids like this is a bad thing, this is bad, but also kids are dumb, like they'll do whatever they want, let them have their experience.
I think it's just a testament that like Brett was saying, parents need to they need to play a more active role in what their kids are doing, and that actually starts at a really young age, starting with how young, like how often do you park your toddler in front of a movie? What movie is it? Are you putting them in front of Cocomelon? Are you putting them in front of whatever? Like, I think that we are...
Part of what got us to the problem we're in right now is a lack of parents knowing what their kids are consuming. But like I said, that is not the industry's job to change. That is the family's job to be more cohesive.
Yeah, I think there's both. I mean, I don't think they're mutually exclusive. I think that, we believe in television like that. It's like if we don't totally know what's going on, it's probably okay. And just generally, I think that, dependency on screens for entertainment is at any age during development can be more dangerous than people realize.
I also think you're giving kids less credit. I think when kids watch this these days, kids understand that what they're watching is a horrifying depiction of something bad happening. They're not going to, maybe they watch it and they're like, wow, that looks like it feels really good, but it's not like the show's leaving it there. No. They're depicting, and like I said, I've gone through this firsthand. I started that way, and it quickly spiraled until and like I said, you can't understand what that feels like until you actually go through it,
Yeah.
So the hope is that the kid sees how horrible it is, and even though, in my opinion, you can see it all you want, but until you feel it, you won't actually understand what that experience feels like. But the goal is that you're not just showing them feeling good, and I would argue that showing kids drinking, never getting in trouble when they're in high school is just as damaging, because every single one of those opportunities leads to the possibility of a drunk driving accident
or alcohol poisoning.
That is, in alcohol, just because it's legal does not mean it's any safer. So I would say that then I ask the question, where do we stop? You can't. If you're trying to accurately portray the American teenage experience, whether it be from a kid at a house party, a good old boys in the middle of the country having fun on a Friday night, or if you're trying to depict a severe drug problem at a college or at a high school in the valley, like it is the artist's job to most accurately portray what they're trying to get across. It's the parents' job to be there to help their kids make sense of that, if that is indeed what they need. So. Like I said, I laugh when I see this stuff because I can't watch it because of what I've been through. But until you go through it, I actually have to commend the actors, because to even be able to portray like a quarter of what it's actually like to go through severe withdrawal. It would be very hard to do. I know that some of them, they've gone to detox centers and had to talk with people who go through these things. It's a very, as an artist, I imagine that's very challenging for them. And they're not doing it some of them might do it for a paycheck, but a young actress like Zendaya, who I'm guessing is quite not the term isn't bleeding heart, but is very idyllic. Has an idealized image of her profession that she wants to convey something important. I'd like to give them the benefit of the doubt and say they're not just doing it for a paycheck. If you're someone of her caliber and has access to the role she has, she's doing it because she believes in what she's doing. She feels that she's portraying something accurately. Maybe she does buy that it is for the good of the public, but
I mean, I think it's just as likely actually that she started on Disney Channel and she was on, she's known for being in Spider-Man, which is not a super serious movie. I think ultimately, there's a chance that she is choosing roles like this to show that she has more range as an actress.
Award season,
not just award season, but just as an artist, that she can convey heavier, stronger messages, like you're saying, being able to accurately portray severe withdrawal or the height of addiction isn't easy. So whether or not she is committed to the message of like drugs are serious and like the choices you make as an adolescent have consequences, you know, I commend her for taking on something challenging.
Though I would assume for most of these people, you know, there's hypocrisy there. I'm sure a lot of them do as well. Yeah, do as I say, not as I do in a lot of ways. So it is what it is. It is interesting to me the fact that Miracle went straight to the sex aspect of it, and my mind goes straight to the drug aspect of it, because it's a sign of you've been raised in different households with different focuses on different things and different life experience. So I didn't even, until she brought up the what is it, like the
anonymous sex.
Sex. I didn't even occur to me.
Yeah. I think, like I was trying to say before, like not all communities have the same problems, right? And not all teenagers have access to the same things. So the prevalence of like what they are experiencing or they're struggling with, which is one of the reasons why a show like Euphoria might seem over the top or seem excessive, because they're trying to cover everything, you know? Whereas
drug use and sex often go together in these cases.
Sure, I believe that, but what I also mean is like the cultural aspect of like where your parties are taking place, how many people are there, are you using because you're from a poor area that has a lot of access and you can buy heroin off your stepdad, or are you more affluent, so maybe you're breaking into liquor cabinets and you have, you know, whatever. For sure. There are all kinds of depictions of it, and I think that ultimately that's where people are frustrated with things like Euphoria, which is like it can seem over the top. Yep.
So in the end, I say, sorry, Dare, but tell the parents it's their job. It's not your job.
Exactly.
See, I don't care that they made a statement. I think that's fine. It's just that like it's not enough, in my opinion. Like it's like when actresses are like when we talked about Sandra Bullock and she was like, because of misogyny, I'm not getting whatever, and it was like, nothing is happening to you.
Yep.
Exactly. I don't know. For me, I just don't like the whole thing where they're blaming entertainment or things that entertain people. It's meant to entertain people. It's not meant to give you a message unless there is like
that's the problem. They're doing too much of the attempting to entertain or to educate people all the time. Anyways, I'm annoyed at how joyless Hollywood is and how much of it feels like an after school special. So if they can do something like that in a slick and very, very gritty way that doesn't feel like you're being preached to, but actually you're watching something extremely visceral, I would rather see that, albeit not on this topic because of where it hits close to home for me. I would rather see that than a bunch of really, really cookie cutter speeches from people that come off as if you're being lectured.
Sure.
So, yes.
I don't know. It annoys the living shit out of me sometimes.
It happens. Thanks for watching this clip, guys. If you want to see full episodes or follow us on social media, links are in the description below. Bye.
Bye.